The sponsor for the Delivering Capabilities Theater. It's my privilege to be able to introduce this morning's distinguished speaker. I'm Don Zimmerman, the account manager for NetApp to Fourth Estate agencies. Mr. Tracy Allison is the chief of the Communications Gateway Division at DISA, and he has over 30 years of experience in the communication systems as a U.S. Army Signal Corps soldier, a DOD civilian for both DISA and the Army, and as a contractor on the NASA Eastern Space Test Range. Mr. Allison also spent a few years as a small business owner prior returning to the DOD, and he attended the University of Central Florida and holds a BSEE degree in electrical and electronic systems engineering with an emphasis on RF design from Leeds Metropolitan University in the UK, and has done extensive graduate work in the field of RF communications design and electromagnetic compatibility at the University of York. Some of the divisions in his programs in his division include the Defense Red Switch Network and the Enterprise Travel Gateway and Commercial Solutions for Classified. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Allison. Thanks,
sir. So I'm not sure how sensitive it is. So good morning, and thank you for getting up early on the last day to come in here and talk about gateways. So what I'll do, and before I go any further, I will say University of Florida is UCF, so those of you who don't know, it's a really good football team. We were the champions last year, but nobody recognized us, so I just thought I'd say that. Oh yeah. For that, I say roll tide. My daughter went there. So anyway, the actual, I'll go through the slides kind of slowly. I don't have a lot of slides, so we can talk about them. And then at the end, if you're done and you want to walk away, that's fine. If you want to stay, I'll answer questions. Supposedly nobody's using this theater until 11 o'clock, so I'll stay until the last person leaves, and we can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. So I'll just go ahead to the next slide. So the first thing I was going to talk about is the vision. So this is basically a vision that we have. It's not reality at this point. There are, I'll say, customers or mission partners around the world, and they're out wherever they are, and they're outside of the DODIN, and they want to come into the DODIN in general, and we want to be able to have a gateway, even if it's not a single gateway, but a federated group of systems that right now a lot of the functions that happen to data when it comes in and out of the DODIN is not really coordinated as a whole. So we've got things like JRSS, we've got internet access points, we've got DMZs, we've got communications gateways, we've got satellite gateways, we've got mobility gateways, and they all work, but they're really not treated as a system, as one system. And so the universal gateway is which is actually the term that my boss's boss likes to use. So would be all the infrastructure required to support all communications, agnostic of the device, agnostic of the transport, to all customers. And eventually all of our discrete gateways that I just mentioned, the mobility, the SATCOM, all those gateways at some point would be converged to the extent possible so that we could, be more effective and efficient, and then also take advantage of some emerging technologies like commercial solutions for classified, for vanilla everyday operational users, that will probably be the future of DODIN access. I believe that there's not really any need for Type 1 encryption for just for data that's going to be unclassified tomorrow or later this afternoon, whereas NC2 or NC3 traffic, maybe you still want Type 1 forever. So I think we still need to support that, but we need to do both. So the last bullet here is sort of like my attempt to sum up what we're talking about is it's all gateway functions for all layers of the stack, for all communications entering or exiting the DODIN, regardless of whose traffic it is, where it's going, where it's been, what they're trying to access, what application it is. It doesn't matter. If you're coming in or out, the Universal Gateway would provide all the functions required to do that. And so this is just again, just a big picture that sort of give you an idea of what the same thing I said in words is all the users across the bottom that we can think of that would be accessing the DODIN. And when we say the DODIN or the DISA, a lot of people sometimes get confused, a little confusion there, but the DISA is obviously a thing. It's a program. It's big. DISA runs it. It's the DISA, the information system network that DISA runs. The DODIN is all the networks in the Department of Defense. So, and maybe even beyond that, but definitely the Department of Defense network. So you see all those little icons up there, or a lot of those are their own enclaves. So all these organizations have their own networks that they want to access. So they not only want to come in to the DODIN to get to unified capabilities, like email and CIPRNet and NIPRNet and all that stuff, but they also want to be able to access and authenticate to their own domain. So they need to get to their own domain and do their own business and do it securely and do it effectively. And they want to do it without using Type 1 encryption, so for the most part. So as a matter of fact, there are groups in the department that are clamoring for us to provide this for them, a commercial solution for classified access. And some people, you'll hear them say something like global gray. That doesn't exist yet. The NSA hasn't finished a capability package for global gray yet. It's not even in draft. There's an enterprise gray. Global gray hasn't even been started. However, this is in a position we want to get in front of that and help drive that capability, help drive that requirements that the NSA will eventually write the capability package. So with sort of the vision is we'll build a gateway to the extent we can, and then work tightly with the NSA to develop what that global gray will be when we get there. And in the middle, you notice where it says the gateway, you'll see it talks about the different types of transport: wireless, SATCOM, terrestrial. There's unlicensed bands and things that DISA is not really involved in, but as we move forward, it doesn't matter if it's SATCOM, whether it's wireless, whether there's radio systems that would work. It's transport, two cans in a string, Bruce Bennett used to say. It doesn't matter. However it gets to us, if it arrives at the gateway, we want to accept it, we want to bring it in and also send it back out however it needs to go out. So I'll talk just a little bit about CSfC. That's sort of like, tongue twister, like seashells down the seashore or something. Some people have trouble saying that fast. But like I said, I see that as the future. It's lightweight, it's low cost, it's effective, it's secure. There's a lot of different ways to implement it. And we want to build a gateway that is flexible and as device agnostic as possible. So if there's solutions out there, and I've heard about a few people have pulled me aside and told me about different technologies that are out there that may help us achieve that. We're all ears. We want to hear what you have. And as we work with the NSA to develop our gateway, we want to ensure that we, like I say, are as flexible as possible. And I mentioned earlier that I've been beat up verbally and almost physically over not providing this capability sooner. I've been threatened to be hung by my own tie. I was called something I can't even say in here a few weeks ago for DISA not providing this sooner. And I get it. A lot of people have implemented something like this already, but it's a little different when you're like the AT&T or Verizon of the department. So a lot of those other systems they have control of every aspect of their network. They don't need to scale. We have a little bit different problem set. So I apologize to anybody we haven't been quick enough to deliver, but we have some challenges we have to meet to be able to provide a turnkey enterprise solution. So our goal is to fully support all emerging CSfC capabilities and also keep up with traditional, still maintain our traditional encryption mechanisms. The thing about CSfC is that it's a little more administratively heavy as far as approvals that you have to get. You can't just go buy a CSfC and turn it on and use it like you do a KG. You go buy a Type 1 encryptor and there's no permissions required for that. It's already set. But if you want to use a CSfC solution, you basically have to take the whole ball of wax, the whole system, and take it to the NSA and have a capability package approved. And so that's not impossible, but it's more red tape that you have to go through. So So with that, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second when I talk about CSfC and being flexible with devices. Right now, we're currently starting to converge. Our first steps are to converge some of our existing gateways, and I use the word discrete, and all I mean by that is every time we've come up with a sort of solution set, we build a unique gateway for it. So we came up with travel kits a few years ago, which we modeled after, I think, JCSE or somebody else had done it, so we took it and built it out. So we built a gateway, and we have mobility. We have cell phones at DISA that do classified cell phones, and we have gateways for that. And we have unclassified cell phones, and we have gateways for those. And we've got more than one kind of deck tech. The travel kits, we've got 3 different kinds of gateways. So they're like rabbits. You know, they're proliferating. We got to try to stop the rabbits from and get them back into one gateway if we can, or at least the minimum number of gateways possible. But we've started off with 2. And I'll talk about that in a second. And we're going to be making some decisions on the courses of action this is going to take in the near future. And I'm not talking about in the next few years. I'm talking about this summer. We really want to field something before the end of this year. So we're going to be fielding a converged capability of, and I won't be specific. I'll say of something. But the long range plan is to have this universal gateway. So we're going to have some phased approach over time, which will take time. And then that's what we would like to probably talk to people about, what you might be able to bring to the table to help us achieve that. And so I'm sure a lot of people here are really familiar with commercial solutions for classified, but just give you some high-level points. It allows you, it's just commercial encryption technology. There's different ways to do it, so I'm not going to get into details of the different capability packages, but in general, it allows you to access classified information without type 1 encryption is the big deal. People, encryptors are expensive and they're tedious to manage. You got to look after them. You got to get the key. You got to load them. You got to carry them around. And and if you're in like countries, you might have to tussle with armed people underneath aircraft bellies and stuff trying to keep the type 1. If it's CSfC and they get a hold of it, he's just like, okay, take it. I don't really care that much. And it's no big deal. It's got the data at rest. So it depends on the app, but you could get it where you don't care like you would a type 1 device. One of the things we want with the CSfC is to allow for regular introduction of devices, so we don't get stuck in a rut. We don't come up and say, oh, here's the DISA. This is the DISA provided device that you have to use, which after day 1 starts immediately becoming antiquated. We want to have the ability for our customers to drive device changes somehow. I'm not exactly sure how that'll work, but where they bring them to the table, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we're vendor agnostic, we're kit agnostic, we're transport agnostic. I'll say that the management systems, we need a lot of different management systems, but one of the most important ones is the certificate management. For CSfC, you have to manage the certs, and and depends on the capability package, but you sometimes need more than one cert, and the responsibility for managing that cert may not always be us. It might be a shared responsibility, like one certificate gets managed by the customer, one gets managed by DISA. But the point that I'm making is that DISA should provide all the tools required to do that management. So we shouldn't have to be integrating customer tools across the enterprise. We should say, here's all the tools required, it's an approved system, and maybe we give administrative privileges if that's necessary for the system to be managed properly. And there's a whole slew of management that you need to do this across the enterprise. I mean, to do it right, I mean, it's not just it's cyber management, it's identity management, it's network management, and the list is long, and I don't even know how many management systems we need, but a lot. And I already mentioned, eventually we want to support Global Gray, which is where we provide a gray network and people can come connect into it. But the difference being, I believe that we should provide all the tools required. Now, if a customer doesn't need all the tools, maybe they don't have to use them all, but we should provide everything that's required. And then the last bullet here is what I love to talk to anybody about, because that's the nirvana, is multi-domain single device. Because I don't know if you walk around, but you'll see people have bandoliers of phones. So they got oh, I got my TS phone, I got my unclassified phone, I got my classified phone, I got my laptop, I got my iPad. We don't need that many devices. We need one device. And while I'm on that, carrying around a high-powered tablet and a high-powered telephone that both have big brains in them, that's sort of wasteful too, because you could have a $100 tablet that just fed off your phone, but that's just, I hadn't seen that either, but I could be on the screen for $100, that'd be a lot more cost-effective in my mind. So for CSfC, I'll just go through this real quick, but I mentioned PKI. If PKI is right now is our focus, if it'll work, we're working with the NSA to try to use PKI certificates. If PKI doesn't scale or it turns out not to be the solution, then we may not use that. But right now we're trying to focus on PKI certificate management because we need to be able to provide all the management required for that to create request certificates, create certificates, and distribute the certificates, but probably more importantly to revoke the certificates immediately if there's any indication there's a problem with that device. We want to be able to shut that thing down, and that's probably one of the keys to us being able to do this securely is to have a robust management system that can detect anomalies and shut down devices or monitor the behavior of that device while they keep doing what they're doing so we can see what's going on. I mentioned shared access management system. So if DISA is providing all the tools, customers need access to those tools so they can have a shared visibility into the network or whatever. So to me, right now, a lot of our systems, we have visibility, and customers pick up a telephone, and they say, "Oh, my phone's not working." Well, it'd be nice if they could log in and look and see the status of the system and see their phone and see the gateway and say, "Oh, now I see what the problem is. I don't need to call anybody. It's my phone's the problem or my network's down." And so that way we could all see the same picture and have a shared awareness and really get a lot more efficient. So the flexible device support is where, I just want to be a little careful because it's not BYOD because that just opens up a whole can of worms. But really desirable to have a way, I say turnkey, so we would have turnkey devices that are already pre-approved. So any device that's already on the approved products list, it's already certified through JITC, it's already NSA approved as part of our system, you could just pick off a list, buy it, and start using it. That'd be the easiest way to go. But if you were a power user, you're the Army or somebody's got I've got this class of devices, I want to bring this device into the gateway, then we need to have a mechanism to support that somehow. So if you look at a capability package of the NSA, it's a great big capability package that talks about everything, the management tools, the way you're doing your certificate management, the gateway functions, but the device is just a sliver of that total capability package. So if all somebody wants to do is bring a new device in, we should be able to have a streamlined mechanism with the NSA. And of course, this is all dependent on us negotiating this with the NSA. So the customers, and I'd say this still be a pain in the butt, but it would allow our customers to drive the innovation of the devices over time versus us trying to say, guess what they want. And so if we could do that and have a way to work with the NSA, to have a streamlined capability package, then they could bring that. I'll talk just a little bit about that in a minute on the next slide. So we want to converge multiple capabilities. And again, I'll say one more time, multi-domain, single device, really desirable. So if somebody can do that, people have told me they can do it. We may talk with you about that because there's a big interest in being able to get rid of all the bandolier devices. So again, on Enterprise CSfC, again, this high level, I'm not talking about how we're going to do any of this stuff. It's just we want to refine our requirements, go out in the industry. We may have an RFI or an industry day at some point to try to talk to see if we can find out more. We want to have a multiple phased approach. So we're doing some stuff, which I'll talk about here in a second, but as we move forward, there are challenges that we have to achieving this vision, and we know what the challenges are. So we can wrap those challenges into nuts that we need to crack. Then we could share that with industry and see if we can figure out how to fix it. So right now we want to converge some systems. We want to build a prototype and deploy our initial converged capability. So the little cogs on the right, those are the three things that have to occur in order to get a device onto this gateway. So you need to get the NSA capability package done through us. You need to get the device has to be JITC certified to be interoperable with our gateway, and then your own AO, customer AO, has to approve your access to SIPRNet. We don't get into approving people's access to SIPRNet. And again, I talk about the flexible, and that's part of the flexible device support. So, but for average user, you just come and pick one off a list and buy it, and you're good. We probably would not provide the devices. I'll just mention that. This is probably not going to get into the device business. We aren't going to be, you come to DISA, go to Storefront, and buy a device from us It would be, here's the devices you buy, here's the vendors, you go buy your device, you come to us and we provide you the configurations you need to operate, but we don't get engaged in you purchasing your own devices. That's between you and your own contracting office. So this is what we've done real. This is something we've done recently at DISA. And so we've, down at Charleston, at what used to be called Spaywar, I think it's called Nywick or something now, if I get that right. But basically, we have two systems at DISA that use CSfC. One of them is the DOD Mobile Classified Capability, DMCC secret, and then we also have the DECTEC secret. We basically took the two CSfC capabilities and made a single gateway that can support both in a laboratory environment. So right now, we're looking at we're working on it as we speak. What do we have to add to that prototype to make it pre-production so that we can field a converged capability? Well, one thing it's not my sole decision to do that. Obviously, we have a consensus across DISA, so we've got all the technical leaders and senior leaders will make the decision. More than likely, the most likely course of action is going to be we need to make sure that the converged gateway does what the other gateways do today, at a minimum. And so that would mean we need management systems and we need to have certificate management, even if it's the way we do it today, along with failover and KGs, which we haven't put the KGs on that CSfC gateway yet. So we're going to figure out what do we got to add to it, and then in the next few months we're going to make that decision and we'll go build that out. More than likely down at Charleston, but we'll see how that goes. So we haven't decided exactly what we're going to do. Obviously, when we change that architecture, even we add KGs to it, we got to go back to the NSA. We got to go get approval for this new capability because it's a new gateway. So we'll have to work with them. And then also we have our internal chief engineer panel, so they'll make sure that it's all approved before we do anything. We'll do that. So the results from, I don't know if you've got the report yet from that activity, from that convergence, but when we do get it, so I think we do have it, but that will be used to make these decisions. And so our initial fielding of this would be a gateway that we could go and say, take a DECTEC gateway and put in another gateway that supported both DMCC and DECTEC. But then the future is that we would have a more elegant certificate management system, which may be something we don't have this year. We're looking at, and maybe other better integrated management systems as well. I won't spend much time on this, just this is here in the deck. You can get the slides. It'll tell you a little bit what DMCC is. This comes right off the DISA website. It's nothing, I didn't write any of that. It's just a definition of what our classified phones do. And then this is just a general description of our DECTEC. There are 3 types of DECTEC that we have. So we have one, the CSfC, that's the one we've integrated. Then we have a traditional DECTEC, which uses KGs. And then we've got a non-DECTEC, which provides a voice-only capability to non-traditional DOD partners. So, the last slide. Again, so I'll just hit some of these things, and then I'll take questions and release anybody to go free to the wild. And if you want to stick around and talk to me for a while, we'll do that. We want to adhere to, obviously, to NSA standards for CSfC. We want to continue to gather and refine our customers' requirements as we move forward. We hope to complete the prototype, which I guess we have completed the prototype, but we want to build on that now, determine our way ahead and move forward, converge the CSfC and traditional encryption. Again, I talked about some of this stuff already, modify the pre-production prototype, and then eventually execute plans to converge to all of our gateways to get to the vision for the universal gateway. So I think that's all I have to really say this morning. So I'm happy to take any questions. And then if people can stay for questions, or you can bug out and go get a cup of coffee and enjoy your morning. Thank you very much. And I'm standing here for a while, so if you feel like you want to talk, then. You can talk at that mic if you like, so people can hear.
Do I dare?
If you have
it was going to be a private conversation.
That's fine. You can come up. Yeah, that's fine.
Well,
okay. No, you're fine. Okay. thank you very much. That's neat. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It's a firewall, you say? Okay. What? Oh, you're okay. Well, I think. Well, if you have a private conversation, then I think it's fine. People. Well, that's nice, but no, that's interesting. So there's people here. The engineers are around here somewhere. I don't see them sitting here, but sure. Okay, that looks cool. Thanks. I believe it is available. I believe it's available. If you can send me a note. No. Well, no, I did mention that. We would like to have multi-domain single device. That's one of the problems, but that's really not when I'm mentioning Convergence here. It's more like we have a lot of gateways and different capabilities. We have travel kit, build a gateway. We have a phone, build a gateway. We've got gateways all over the place. Well, we just want to make it where we have it should be agnostic to transport and the type of end device. We have a gateway that come in and out to minimize the amount of equipment. And also to get a better handle on all the functions that have to occur to bring traffic in and out of the because right now we've got a lot of systems are gateway-like functions like point region security stack, we've got internet access points, we've got DMZs, and they're really not managed in concert with one another. So I don't think we have a clue how many times we're firewalling a packet, for instance. Well, that's not, and it depends on which way you come in, how many. So you're trying to authenticate with the name, which is across the 12 firewall. It will open up all the doors. So there's really, I don't know, there's not really good solutions. Some of the stuff we're looking for is maybe a way that would allow the gateway to have a multi-layer authentication with the end device and the enclave, sort of like a private conversation. Maybe you go ask him, hey, this Yahoo wants to come in, you know this guy, I don't know, ask him this secret question, and he told me the right answer, and then maybe use software-defined networking to open the ports temporarily so they can do their handshake, and then close them back down again. Something like that, So there's a lot of little nuts we got to crack to try to get there, but we need to be able to get this done. People they go out and build their own gateways, which they do. They get fallout money, and they'll build $16 to build a gateway. But then they realize they're stuck with a $2 million bill every year to sustain it and manage it. And it's just it's not scalable. Please provide it. Because the cost, I didn't mention it here, but the cost of providing this is probably free. Because this would just be a part of your business subscription. You probably wouldn't charge your customers for it. Right now, they might be paying $2 million a year to pay for their network management, their 24/7 management. $2 million free. Good product. Appreciate you. Thanks. Sir. Hi, Jonathan. Tracy Allison. Hey. Oh, really? Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, we definitely have to manage these certificates somehow. It needs to be I look at we should provide tool sets required for that instead of having a different integrated random tool sets, the customers bring to the table or exchanging MIB data and SNMP traps or whatever. It's like, just use the tool that we already have. And that way there's no integration required. Okay, well, yeah, if you can just send me some stuff, like files and stuff, that'd be good. Okay. And also, you're playing with it. It's really confusing. Like, I mean, you work with the Army CERTEC labs, because we're thinking about using them to help us solve some of these problems. Because we can sort of slide money to them, and they've already got contracts with us. So versus us putting stuff in place. Okay. And then we're also working with the Navy down in Charleston as well. definitely look at the Army. They're really tight. That CSfC office is really tight with the NSA, and they work on a daily basis. And they're building some pretty cool products up there too. So if you work with them, then maybe we'll talk to them. All right. Nice to see you. Hi. It's just what we use today. It's what we use on our enterprise. So that was the first focus. But I'm not sure. So you have an alternative.
Well, so on the high side, yeah.
It's just right now.
Avoiding
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, send me some information. I don't know anything about what we're talking about. But I just know that right now that's what we use for the business. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So give me, because I'd like to learn about this. Do you work with the CSfC office at the NSA or? Okay. Okay. But you work with them, so that's good. Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing this. Anything we can do smarter, I'm all ears. No. Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I really look forward to that. Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
very exciting.
Yeah, well, it's the future. We got to figure out how we get there, right? But I appreciate that information. That's great. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Hello. Hey, Tracy. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay, yeah, we're doing some contracts there, yeah. All right, you guys are good. I made a slam on Ditko and they said, what Ditko are you talking about? Well, the one that doesn't work is the one I was talking about, not you guys. Shayla, yeah, they're both really good and helping me out. You know, the only problem is working on JWICs, but I get there and figure out how to do it. Okay, great.